We need to talk about this big Linus Tech Tips update, especially because, I think the most oxygen and the biggest spotlight's always given to the big, juicy story, the accusations. And unfortunately, a lot of the time you don't see the reporting later down the road of, was there anything there? What are the updates? In the YouTube world, this is massive news because Linus Tech Tips just released the results of a months-long investigation that found that they didn't have a toxic work environment nor allowed sexual harassment. Also, if you're unfamiliar or this is just not fresh in your brain, let's revisit. So back in August of last year, the LTT channel and the company above it, LMG, were accused by former employee Madison Soup of a ton of wrongdoings. But easily, the main ones were that there was sexual harassment that went unaddressed and ignored, and that the company set her up for failure with poor communication and shifting expectations that were never relayed. With that then causing a massive backlash against Linus and the company promising that an independent investigation would be carried out. And since then, they've been almost completely silent on the issue, with the company also having to juggle other issues that we've discussed on the show in the meantime. But now, the big news is that they've released the general findings of the investigation via a tweet, and if true, they look very good for LMG and LTT. Right, so we learned that the entire thing was conducted by Roper Grayo, which is a large Vancouver-based law firm specializing in labor and employment law, with them conducting a third-party investigation. And that the main takeaway with this is that, in summary, as confirmed by the investigation, the allegations made against the team were largely unfounded, misleading, and unfair. The statement also going down more specific allegations made by Madison, such as claims of bullying and harassment not being substantiated, saying allegations that sexual harassment were ignored or not addressed were false, any concerns that were raised were investigated. And furthermore, from reviewing our history, the investigator is confident that if any other concerns had been raised, we would have investigated them. It also goes on to pretty much claim that every one of Madison's claims were false and that the company had made efforts to address her concerns when they were brought up, with really one of the only things on this being a mark against LMG being allegations of process errors and miscommunication while onboarding this individual were partially substantiated. But the investigator found ample documentary evidence of LMG working to rectify the errors and the individual being treated generously and respectfully. When they had questions, they were responded to and addressed. And so, with this news, many fans are pretty happy with how everything played out, saying things like, "Glad to see this is going well. I just hope some of the fans don't go and harass or bully the employees that made these allegations." So at the same time, there were some concerned about at least one aspect of the statement, with the company writing, "At this time, we feel our case for a defamation suit would be very strong. However, our deepest wish is to simply put all of this behind us. We hope that will be the case given the investigators' clear findings that the allegations made online were misrepresentations of what actually occurred," and adding, "We will continue to assess if there is persistent reputational damage or further defamation." And so some weren't happy with that statement, saying things like, "Well, I believe the investigation was thorough and have no reason to doubt that the results of the investigation are correct. I really don't think it was good optics to make any mention of a very strong case for a defamation suit." As well as, "I wonder who wrote this and thought it was a good idea to publicly threaten a broke, immature girl with a defamation lawsuit. Would have been better to just sit on these results and not even mention them than to come out and threaten a lawsuit." So there, we also saw people defending the mention and pushing back that LMG shouldn't have mentioned the defamation aspect, saying things like, "A lot of people are complaining about the defamation part, but my take, it's fine and should be there. There's a lot of people defaming folks on the internet either for clout or out of misunderstandings, and it's a good thing that people are being reminded that consequences exist." With now all this out there and people reacting to it, I gotta pass the question off to you here. What are your thoughts with all this? Whether it be about the findings of this independent investigation just generally, or the more specific question regarding the mention of a defamation suit.